This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
Welcome to the Bristol Flyers Podcast. We are powered by Matchday Live. I'm Joel Osborne. He is Sam Hardy. And Sam, it is SLB Trophy Final week.
I am so flipping excited, Jolie. I've never been part of a final. I've never been part of anything worthwhile in my whole life. This is the first time I'm excited for anything, Jolie.
Yeah, it is the start of a very busy week for everyone in the world of Bristol Flyers. This Sunday, Flyers are returning to the Utilita Arena in Birmingham exactly 5 years ago to the day since they fell to Worcester Wolves in the British Basketball League Cup final. The club's 20th anniversary season is the first piece of SLB silverware on the line. History will be made in Birmingham on Sunday.
That was beautiful, Joel. I honestly, you don't understand. I'm so excited. I'm ready. Packed my bags already. I haven't really, but we'll get there.
Yeah, you are going to be going down with Watches of Bath, is that right?
I certainly am. I'm going to be in the Watches of Bath section. A couple of seats there, which will be fun. Get to see the live action from courtside, which I'm very excited about. Dan, are you going to be there at the game?
I'll be there. I'm going to be working the game. Yes, I'm part of the DAZN team.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're a new addition to the roster.
Yeah. Catch me on the bench next to Omac.
How about that?
How about that? I was going to say the same thing. Catch me on the bench. How about that?
Yeah, that's me.
Do you fancy yourself coming in, dropping 50 points on Sunday?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great.
But seriously, you are working with the zone, aren't you?
Yeah, we're going to be there. We're going to be there working the game. We've got lots planned. It's going to be, both games, obviously. Men's final, but before that, the women's final as well. Both are going to be live on YouTube and DAZN, I believe, plus the dunk contest. Oh, it's going to be good. Yep. It's going to be tiring, but it's going to be good.
That's what you're taking part in, isn't it? The dunk contest.
That's me. You found me. Well done.
Busted.
I like the idea of the Watches of Bath section, by the way. Sam, is that actually a thing? The whole section of you? The Wob Mob?
No.
The Wob Mob.
Oh no, that is now what I'm going to call it from now on. Unbelievable scene from you. No, we're going to be with all the other important people linked to Bristol Flyers. I think we'll be of Lisa Knights. And,
yeah, I believe so.
And I think John Lansdowne's making his way up there, isn't he?
I believe so, yes. John Lansdowne, big listener to the podcast. Shout out John Lansdowne. He will be going up to the game, I understand. So, be exciting.
So, no Wob Mob, just a couple.
You know what's going to be exciting about this game as well, and I said this last time we were in a major final, is they're on course right now. They put a statement out this week saying that they're on course for up to 10,000 fans, being 8,500 fans at the time of recording have bought tickets. You split that in half, that is what Flyers will aspire to play in front of every single week at Ashton Gate in the next couple of years.
That is amazing. I'm so excited.
And when you get there, and the fans that are listening to this podcast, when you get there, you'll realise how big a spectacle it is. Lots of fans I know would have gone to our last major final, which was 5 years ago. But imagine splitting that arena in half, and that could be the size of Bristol basketball at Ashton Gate every single week.
So we're just going to watch half court, are we?
No. But look at half the... Imagine the arena split in half during that game. And awful. Silly boy. Silly as a boy. Big week for Flyers as well, by the way, because from a media side of things, everyone wants to cover us this week. On Tuesday, we opened our shoot-around to the media, the local media in Bristol. And I can tell you, we had a lot of interest. Busy morning it was. We had BBC Radio Bristol come in, The Breakfast Show. Joe Sims, Claire Carter.
Oh, yeah.
They were down at SGS. They did a little piece being put through their paces by Bristol Flyers players. Did you hear this, Dan?
I haven't heard it yet, no. I can listen back, though, presumably.
You can listen back on BBC Sounds.
Nice.
And go check it out. It aired yesterday, which was Wednesday. So go check it out. We're recording this podcast on a Thursday. So go check it out. They get put through their paces. They got mentioned throughout the whole breakfast show constantly. Flyers was every single news bulletin. There was chats with Coach K. And then there was a huge 20-minute feature on the breakfast show where Joe and Claire do some training drills with Ralph Thomas-Edwards and a bunch of the Bristol Flyers players.
Who won out of interest, or is that going to spoil it?
It was non-competitive,
okay.
I want to say.
Always a competitor with you, Dan.
Well, I just think Claire plays a bit of netball, so she might be quite good at that.
It's all a bit of fun, mate, all right?
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
We're not
we don't rate which
here.
producers we have producing this show, even though Freddie's the best.
That's true. Hey.
But we had the BBC Radio Bristol Breakfast Show come down to SGS. We also had Josh Perkins from Radio Bristol. He was also there for the sports bulletin. He's also going to be there on Sunday at the final in Birmingham. We had Addy Durden from BBC Points West. Look out for Flyers on Points West on Friday night. Also, we had ITV there. Look out for Flyers on ITV on Friday night as well. We also had Bristol 24/7 in the house. There's a nice little feature that went up this week from Bristol 24/7 ahead of the final. And finally, we had SLB and the DAZN guys come in to do some features for the broadcast on Sunday.
I can imagine this was a little bit like off of Anchorman when all of the newsreaders and news teams come together and have one big fight about who does
It's one
no
of those
touching of the hair or face.
It's one of those ones because I offered everyone something different. Normally, in that situation, we have one big media day. You would just put them up for a single press conference and everyone gathers the same content. However, I made sure everyone got their own individual interviews with all of our players and staff that they want to speak to as well. So everyone's piece of content is going down a different storyline ahead of Sunday's final. It's great.
Incredible, Jolly.
So if you've not checked it out, go have a look at the news this week because Flyers are all over it, which is great to see. Coming up on this week's show, this is our big trophy final preview. Now we've invited back a friend of the show to help us talk through our opponents for Sunday's SLB Trophy Final, because that is none other than a man who's won many titles with Newcastle Eagles in the past. It's Drew Lasker.
What a legend as well. He's I know some of the fans haven't, been the best sort of friends with him forever, but he's actually genuinely a really good guy. I don't necessarily agree with his prediction, but I
don't think any Bristol Flyers fans agrees with any of Drew Lasker's predictions. But no, it's a great chat we had with Drew. We do a deep dive into this game. We talk about key matchups, what it's like to be a player in that situation, playing in front of up to 10,000 fans in an arena like the Utilita Arena. Very insightful chat. Hopefully, I imagine a lot of you are actually listening to this podcast right now on the bus or travelling to Arena Birmingham on Sunday. So if you are, up the Flyers. And hopefully, this podcast gives you a little bit of insight of everything you need to know ahead of Sunday's big game. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying the Bristol Flyers podcast, leave us a rating and a review on your usual podcast provider. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe right down here. It really helps us move up the podcast rankings. I was looking at the numbers, Sam. Over half the people that watch our podcast are not even subscribed to the channel. So make sure you please subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notifications every time a new episode comes out. But without further ado, what?
You sounded like Stephen Bartlett then. From the Diary of a CEO, it says something about I've noticed that half the people that listeners don't even subscribe to my podcast. So
it's true. Half our listeners don't subscribe to the podcast.
Yeah, well, you better subscribe, people.
Yeah, you better, because I have a job to keep. On that note, I think it's about time we get to this interview. What do you think, Sam?
Let's get to the interview!
Here is our SLB Trophy Final preview with Newcastle Eagles legend Drew Lasker.
This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
What's up, Flyers fans? This is the part of the podcast where we tell you all about our brand new podcast sponsor, Matchday Live. So Matchday Live is essentially a Netflix-style OTT platform that sporting clubs and organisations can monetize their own content and bring fans closer to the action. They help sporting teams and organisations become the broadcaster with live streaming and on-demand solution tailored to the world of sports. Deeper insights, richer monetization capabilities, and active support to ensure your fans are never in the dark. We're actually working with Matchday Live right now, Sam, to build a brand new Bristol Flyers TV platform that we hopefully be coming next season. But it's not just the Flyers that Matchday Live are working with, because they work with a whole bunch of other sporting teams and organisations, including Bristol City, Chesterfield FC, and our good friends at the Bristol Pitbulls Ice Hockey Club. So if you want to find more about how you can enhance your content with your own OTT platform, courtesy of Matchday Live, you can reach out to their sales team, sales@matchdaymediagroup.com. That's sales@matchdaymediagroup.com.
This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Bristol Flyers Podcast for our big trophy final preview episode. And we are very pleased to say that joining us on the line to help us preview Sunday's trophy final against the Newcastle Eagles, he is a former 16-year pro in the British top flight. He's won 10 championships with the Newcastle Eagles. He's been on the podcast before. please welcome back to the show Newcastle Eagles legend and British basketball commentator Drew Lasker.
Hey!
Woo! What's up, fellas?
How are we, Drew? You good?
I'm good. I love that soliloquy at the top, man. I don't get to brag about myself often. It sounded nice.
Hey, we got to pick you up, mate, because, we got to give we got to justify the Flyers fans. Well, we've got someone from Newcastle Eagles on the podcast this week, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pleasure, fellas. Thank you.
When you joined all those years ago, at the beginning of your career, did you know you were going to spend 16 years in the top flight British League or not?
Well, when I first arrived in Plymouth and it rained for 45 straight days, I looked at my contract and I thought, 8 months, I'm out of this biatch. And no clue that I would. I'm actually creeping up on my 20th year anniversary here in the UK.
Whoa.
September 13th, 2025, I would have been in the UK for 20 years. Unbelievable. This is you guys' 20th year anniversary as well. I can say that at the time, I had not known that the Flyers existed in my time in Plymouth. But now, look at you now. You're in a final.
Yeah. I mean, we would have been entering NBL Division 3 back then when Drew was playing in Plymouth.
Gosh.
Like early days,
Wow.
do you know what I mean? So now the journey that we've been on and going to top flight, now second final, it's great to see. But when Drew was with Newcastle, back then Newcastle were the team that... It's Newcastle and Leicester, essentially, wasn't it? They would be the two teams top of the table, like 2013, 2014, those early years in top flight for Flyers. They would always be the teams that would be in every final. It would be Newcastle versus Leicester, take 2 or take 3 or take 4, you know what I mean? And then suddenly you sort of now see more parity across the league and you see teams that are beating each other on any given night. You literally can't call it right now in SLB. It's crazy how, you've got, for us, for example, we're second last in the standings right now in the SLB and we're making it and we're in the trophy final. We've got Newcastle in 5th right now and they're in the trophy final.
And a semi-final of the cup.
Yeah, exactly. So what have you made of like SLB as a whole this season, Drew? Because the parity in the league and how any team can beat anyone on any given night is so much fun to watch, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. Us experts, I use that with quotes, and, commentators, we're supposed to give the audience all the answers. But every week I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, if you just look at last weekend, the Newcastle Eagles handle the London Lions, who were top of the table at the time, and then the Lions return home on the Sunday to Leicester Riders, who have been in great form over the last couple of weeks. And Riders had actually taken the lead in the standings for 48 hours, and the Lions handled them. And so, and then Newcastle goes down to Cheshire, who've been trying to find their new identity, and lose a buzzer beater. So, everything is unpredictable at the moment, but it's a fun ride, and I'm enjoying it.
Before we dive into this SLB Trophy Final, Drew, I know you are involved with the broadcast on DAZN on Sunday. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, some idiot named Drew Lasker is the main presenter to host the entire day, and on a serious note, I am so honored. I'm so thankful to have this opportunity. It's a huge stage, and I am not taking it for granted. I understand what's at stake. It's the genesis for the SLB, right? It's the first final for our league, and so I have put all my energy into making sure that the league is represented very well. So myself, along with Azania Stewart, sprinkled in with Siobhan Pryor for the women's, Aunt Rowe for the men's, and those two will also be next to Dan Rowlish, giving you the 1s and 2s on the commentary for the game. So should be a great day. It always is. It's one of my favorite days on the calendar, the final there in Birmingham, at Utilita Arena. So really looking forward to it and being part of it.
You've just made a great point. I've not thought of this. This is literally history because it's the first SLB piece of silverware that is ever going to go out to anyone.
Yeah. It'll be the first name on that SLB trophy. It will be the very first name because obviously it's the new the new era, the new dawn of British basketball.
That's amazing.
You mentioned there, Drew, like you've been doing more of the lead commentary side of things this season for Newcastle Eagles on DAZN. I remember last season you and I did a game together in the British Basketball League where you were on colour commentary. How have you found that switch over to our side of the commentary table? Because it's a lot different, isn't it, in terms of saying what you see rather than providing that analysis and insight?
Well, first of all, that game that you and I did was incredible. I think at the time on the league's Instagram page was the most viewed clip out of any content they had put up. So congratulations to you, Joel. But when I first was offered the commentating role, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was scared. Just because, as you mentioned, it is completely different from being a color analyst. Like, obviously, as an analyst, you do your homework. You're studying these teams, but as a former player as well, you're just coloring what you see, and so it's not as much preparation as a commentator. Whereas you slide over that seat, 5 inches, you are literally carrying the entire game, and so the weight of all of that in such short notice. Like I only had less than a week notice that I was going to be doing it. And so I immediately reached out, to a lot of people, made a lot of phone calls. And so, I was really scared. It was a good scare though. Like, it was like, that's one thing about me. I love challenges. I love to see if I could do things that, that may seem far-fetched to other people. And so now I would say it took me about a good 4 games to get comfortable with it. But it's been an amazing ride getting to cover the Newcastle Eagles week in and week out.
Yeah, it's good as well. You get to sit in the best seat in the house, down courtside, and again, it's just listening to all those voices that I don't think the listeners of the podcast really understand. But you have people that are talking to you whilst you're trying to get us to our next link on a VT or something like that. And there's not as much time pressure this year in terms of, with last season we were on. In the States often, so you've got someone literally counting you into ad breaks. But this year it's very much, they'll tell you where you need to go, but there's no time pressure as much. You can ask another question if you want to, if there's something else you want to say. But no, mate, I think you're absolute natural, mate. I've had to listen to a couple of your games this season, and I think you're taking it like a duck to water.
Man, I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, doing something that we love to do, just talking basketball, something that I would be doing anyway on my couch. I just happen to get to do it on the 50-yard line at the Virtue Motors Arena. So very, very grateful.
Oh, commentary friends. Oh,
commentator friends.
Hey, Joe, we'll have a beer later, just you and I, mate.
Oh, 100%, mate. I'm down.
I don't really like to talk about the boring things you guys talk about. So, to be fair, Drew, you are really good, and it's really helpful that you're. I think to make a great commentator, you need 2 good things. You need to know basketball really well, which you obviously do, and be really engaging. And both of you two actually nail that really well. So, we appreciate having people like you in the league performing on our screens, giving us informative but also entertaining content. We do appreciate you.
Cheers, mate. I feel like I could I could never do colour commentary because I played, but never at that level that is required to have that deep analytical look on games. But like for me, I can like talk you into an XVT, or I can throw some thoughts someone's way to get some proper insight on it. So, Drew, I don't know how you do it, mate, because it's to do that side of the the broadcast that you do is you got to have a lot of knowledge up there. And for me, I just watch a lot of basketball. So,
Drew, do you have because I can give you Joel's. Do you have a particular catchphrase you always go back to?
Not at the moment. I'm playing with a lot of different stuff, but nothing that I would say that's consistent. I've been playing with a lot of words, but I'm just trying to see what's going to stick.
I can think of one, Drew.
What's Joel's, by the way?
Well, I want you to, first of all, I'll ask Dan in a sec, but can you think what Joel's is or not?
You know what mine is.
Well, it's not momentarily.
Oh, it's definitely not
that. Dan, what do you think?
What is Joel's?
I can't think of Joel's. I've got Drew's. I know what Drew's is. Drew, when a ball goes up and somebody blocks it or bats that ball away, what is it you say?
Oh, talk to the hand.
Talk to the hand, or get that out of here.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. That's my favourite.
Joel's is
out of here.
Joel's is He puts it up, he puts it in.
Yes, yeah.
I do say that a lot. I say that so much.
He puts it up, he puts it in.
And what I'm going to start doing now is getting a Post-it note and sticking it to my monitor and say, don't set a bit, and say, puts it in with a huge cross over it. Because I need to stop saying that.
I like it. It's your thing.
I'm gonna get like a little glossary out for like made baskets and just list them all on a yellow Post-it note and try and tick them off like bingo
Anyone,
on my next game. I say it too much.
Anyone listening now who hasn't noticed that is all they're going to hear
Oh my
when you
goodness!
do.
Yeah, you are now gonna. Next time you watch a Flyers game.
Hey, Joel, you know they're gonna start calling you out on the socials like they were with.
100%. It's gonna be ruined for everyone.
Year.
Yeah, it's gonna be ruined for everyone.
Yeah.
Now, so.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Thanks for that. Might cut this bit out of the podcast.
No,
I'll keep it in. I'll keep it in. Let's move swiftly on because, of course, we got you on, Drew, as a former player for Newcastle Eagles, as our insight into our opposition for Sunday's trophy final. Of course, you've had that experience yourself of winning multiple championships on that big stage, so you have that experience of exactly what it's like playing in those big games. For a lot of these players on both sides on Sunday for the trophy final, there aren't too many veterans on either side. You've got players like Defoe and maybe Leslie Smith for Flyers, but there aren't many players that have actually played in this environment before.
Yeah, well, what's interesting and exciting for the fans is, firstly, there's 4 fresh teams on Sunday compared to last year. So that's really, I think for a league, it's really great for the fan bases moving forward to know that they have an opportunity to play on a big stage. 3 out of the 4 teams have never won a trophy before. And then if you go throughout the rosters, like the Oakland Wolves only have 2 players with finals experience. Same with the Gladiators. 1 on Bristol and then 2 on Newcastle. And so it's the Wild Wild West. Like anything can happen. And then, people will rely on the narrative with Newcastle of, the history, but really, how much does that matter? Like Defoe, he's won 27 trophies. His role has been marginalized this season. Josh Ward-Hibbert won with the London Lions, but he had a very small role with the Lions. And so it is literally an opportunity for everyone.
Let's kind of like paint the picture for the fans, because there's so many storylines around this men's final in particular. And like we say, we've mentioned it's the very first SLB Trophy Final. You got the Flyers, who are in their only second major final in the top flight era. Exactly 5 years ago to the day it will be since they lost to Worcester Wolves in the British Basketball League Cup final at the same arena in Birmingham. And then you've got it's their 20th anniversary season for the Flyers, and then you've got them going up against Newcastle, the most successful British club, 27 trophies to their name. There's some really good narratives in this game, isn't there? I mean, you got like the 2 GB coaches going head to head, and Mark Stoessel and Andreas Kapoulas. There's so many different narratives to dive into. You guys are going to have quite a lot to talk about on Sunday.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what makes it so fun. I mean, take your pick. Do you want to go, the historic team, the old farts against the new kids on the block, or do you want to go with the assistant versus the head coach GB connection, or take it a step further, do you want to go with the 2 of the most electric players in our league? Money Mike Okaro and Keddy Johnson, 2 guys who have very similar styles of play. Take your pick. It's a lot of intriguing things that you can keep your eye on, and with the main factor being is going to be under a microscope of 10,000 people in a huge arena in Birmingham, and so. Whereas, in the past, the performance always changes slightly for most players under these bright lights. And so how do you handle the anxiety of that? How do you handle the pressure of everyone watching? And so it's really intriguing.
Have you seen that before, where players who have been playing unbelievable all season get into an arena that's much bigger than what they were doing and they just fell apart?
Yeah, me.
Really? Let us know.
Yeah, so, my first trophy final, played well, beat Newcastle, won that one. And then my actual first cup trophy in the cup final in this arena in Birmingham, we lost by 50. We set a record. I mean, I played, well, but our team stunk. But my first opportunity with Newcastle is when I really felt the magnitude of it all. Just, playing under the bright lights, under the pressure of trying to perform for the Newcastle Eagles. And on that day, I scored 2 points. We blew a 13-point lead in the last 2 minutes, and I had a meeting the next morning with Dave Forrester and Coach Fab Flournoy. And from that moment on, and this is why experience matters, because from that moment on, I told myself, I said, regardless of any type of situation, I have to go out being me and doing what got me here. I got to this point without anybody here. You know what I mean? And so that's what I relied on for the rest of my career, the back end, and ended up having terrific finals for the Newcastle Eagles moving forward. So, yeah, it is a lot of added pressure, and it does change.
I see a lot of conversations online, and a lot of players talk about it as well, especially with that arena in Birmingham, is the depth perception on shooters. And for the context for the listener, essentially it's like a horseshoe-shaped arena where you've got a curtain on one side, a black curtain, and then the other hoop has essentially a whole block of fans surrounding the whole basket. Do you notice that as a player? Is that something that's real, that is talked about amongst players, that depth perception in those finals, especially at Birmingham?
That is the biggest factor. I mean, when you look at the SLB, SGS is probably the most comfortable shooting arena for any player because of its size. It's backed in. There's a wall behind the basket, and so kind of painting the pictures for the listeners is that it's imagine shooting a basket in a booth, right? You are really laser focused. There's no external factors to throw off your hand-eye coordination. However, when you get in an arena like Utilita, it's like trying to shoot a basketball into an ocean, except there's a basket in the ocean. And so, it's harder to kind of narrow in your focus, especially from the corners, because when you shoot from the corners, you're looking, there's, I don't know how many feet, hundreds of feet beyond the basket, along with a lot of fans and signs and everything. And whereas most arenas in here in the UK, it's not that deep. And so that's one thing that if you never played, you wouldn't really understand, but it does change. This is why historically, if you go back and look at all the performances there, these games are always played in the 70s. The shooting stinks. And whichever one player that can get hot or a player that can get to the free throw line and get to the basket, that's why Micah Carroll and Keddy Johnson is really intriguing to keep an eye on, and why they're on my MVP watch is because they have the game, the style of play that translates to that type of arena.
Let's talk about form in the teams. The season so far for both of the sides coming into Sunday. We mentioned, of course, it's the 8th versus 5th in the league. Flyers 3-5 in the regular season. They went 3-3 in the trophy group stage, and then they knocked off Cheshire in the semi-final over 2 legs. But they're coming into Sunday off the back of 3 straight wins in all competitions. Is form a real thing going into a big major final? I know it's a one-off game, but what does it do for mindset, for confidence, for teams when they're coming into a final with good momentum?
It's a double-edged sword because, any player would want to go into a game of this magnitude with the uttermost confidence individually and then from a team perspective. However, in these games, it doesn't really matter because of, like we mentioned before, all bets are off. This is an arena that no team has played in, all the external factors that I alluded to earlier. And so, as confident as you may feel coming into it, as soon as you get in the arena, there's a little bit of doubt because there's so much newness. And so, you could put all that out the window when it comes into it. And sometimes the one thing that translates is, which I think will work for the Newcastle Eagles, is losing coming into it to the team, and then losing the way they lost to Cheshire, the game at a buzzer beater, because what that does for your preparation leading up to the game is that you're just a little bit more dialed in, because imagine these players are hearing the same voice for 8 months, and sometimes you tune it in, sometimes you tune it out. It depends on what day of week it is, you know what I mean? And so the best way to be able to hear the coach's message is always after a loss. And so this is why I think Newcastle have a slight edge, if there's any, but all bets off.
Yeah, I know both teams have also, throughout the season, they've struggled to really get going in the regular season. They'll lose games they're meant to win. They'll win games they're meant to lose. Both teams have had to make roster changes. Flyers, obviously, with Trey Tennyson departing, Alain Louis coming in. And Newcastle, the point guard position has always been a position where usually you have it locked down with like Jordan Johnson, Ramon Fletcher over the years. And then this year it seems to be a bit of a hybrid position where you don't necessarily have that true point guard until you brought in Pulliam last week. And I haven't checked this, but I'm pretty sure because of the registration thing that he can't play on Sunday. I need to confirm that.
Can Drew confirm that?
Can you confirm this, Drew? Do you know?
I don't believe he will be playing. I mean, I'm not completely sure, but I'm like you, Joel. If history serves us right, then he won't be. But, we don't know. I know you two will hope he won't be, and the Bristol fans listening hope he won't be, but not 100% sure.
It's a weird one because obviously we hope he isn't, but also at the same time, like I've seen people come into this league and take 2, 3, 4 games to get used to it as well. So it's not necessarily an advantage. I know he's a good player, but it's not necessarily an advantage because they're not quite used to the system yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if you're being thrown into a game in your third game potentially, if he does play, like that's your third game as a Newcastle Eagles player in probably the biggest game of the season, definitely the biggest game for Newcastle over the last couple of years in their history. That's a lot of pressure to put on a point guard coming in for their third game. So it could be, as you say, a blessing in disguise when you've got players that have currently run that role already, and Spencer, for example, and James that have run that role already this season. It could be the same as usual for them. It's interesting, and you talk about Flyers at the other end in that point guard position where you've had Keddy go into that one position, and then Trey Tennyson got cut, and then Alain Louis comes in, and it seems like a more of a defensive playmaker, a pass-first point guard. Do you feel that point guard position could be really crucial coming into the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's why with both of these teams, like when I analyze all the teams across the SLB, these two make me scratch my head because they're the two that I'm most uncertain about. Just because we've seen different styles from both teams. And like you said, that point guard position is really, really crucial. It really sets the table, the tone, and how whichever type of style that you want to play. And that's why I think you've seen both teams look like a yo-yo this season just because of the inconsistencies from that position. Because even with Keddy, because initially, just from afar, it feels like that he was brought back to be the main point guard. But for me, he's more of a combo scoring point guard. But I think this is the best move for his development. But then you guys looked at the situation and thought, you do need a setup guy and maybe have him play both roles. But again, it's a situation where both of these teams are really at a crossroads in regards to style of play and identity is the word that I'm not sure that they have both carved out their complete identity just yet.
It does seem from watching a lot of Bristol games this season that our identity has changed. It's still the same core principles around the team, but the identity, the build, the makeup of the team has been a lot different than maybe previous years in that the start of the season is such an offensive team. It was some of the fastest basketball we've seen a Bristol Flyers team play. Previously in identity, we've always been physical, crashing the offensive glass. We're sacrificing offensive rebounds this season. And then with the sort of Louis addition and the Trey Tennyson departure, you then sort of give a bit of your offense to then bring in some more stability on the defensive end, especially on the perimeter. I felt early in the season some of our perimeter defense wasn't as good as expected for a Bristol Flyers team. And now you've got a playmaker that you can obviously have Keddy starting at the 1, but now you've got options for Keddy to play at the 2 like he did last season. I mean, the 1 was a position that at West Virginia that he was playing all throughout his college career, and he had like 27 points in like March Madness first round. So he's a guy that is very capable of playing in that one position. He's played on those big stages before. And at the other end of the court, I mean, you look at some of these key matchups. You've got people like Seneca Knight coming in off his 37-point performance against Cheshire. You got Money Mike, as you like to call him. He's been incredible all season long. I think the big difference maker is probably the forward position. You talk about like how the finals are games that aren't necessarily suited to shooters per se with the depth perception. I feel like Flyers in that forward position with Damon Robinson, what sort of matchup do you put on Damon? Like, because I look at a player like Malcolm, for example, and we know Malcolm really well, and I think it's safe to say that his role has decreased since joining Newcastle. His minutes are down, his numbers are down. It's not the Malcolm that we're used to seeing playing for Bristol a couple of seasons ago. But what sort of matchup do you put against Damon Robinson? Because although he can score in the paint as well, he is a guy that can pull it out to the three-point line. He is a guy that can pull it out to the elbow. And you look at other bigs that we have as well, like Owen McCormack, that can really stretch it out to the perimeter. Like what's the matchup for Damon Robinson on Sunday?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as we zone in and on the front court, I think that's where you guys have an advantage. I think you guys have the ability to get easier baskets, specifically with Robinson early inside, that will fuel energy and confidence throughout the team. And that's the thing. Like when these two teams faced off a couple weeks ago, is that we didn't have an answer for him. We cycled through our centers, and as you mentioned, Malcolm, who in November was amazing for us, have just seen his struggles, and I think that's affected his defense as well. And so, that's going to be a key question. Like, does Mark Studel pull which if you look at their lineups this year, he's shuffled them a lot. Does he pull the trigger and go with the veteran presence of Defoe so you get off to a good start? Because good starts are crucial in finals. And so the coaching matches is really intriguing as well, especially since these teams have just seen each other. What are the adjustments there coming into Sunday?
Do you think we've not talked, we mentioned him, but I think Elaine does add something. Like, if your point guard doesn't play, which we think he's not going to, like, you have the same roster that we had 2 weeks ago, and we came out on top 2 weeks ago. I know it's a home game. I know SGS has got its sort of like pros about it being loud and intimidating in its own way. But Elaine, I even think in the last 2 games he's still not been quite up at full fitness, but I think in the last 2 weeks he'll be there now, and I do think he offers something.
I don't think we've seen the best of Elaine Louis yet this season, and I'm watching Elaine Louis right now, and he is the piece that was been missing for Flyers in terms of a playmaking guard. You have a scoring guard in Keddy, and you have a playmaking guard in Elaine, and like the defensive intensity he can bring. You put him on a key point guard to free Keddy up for a different kind of matchup, because to me personally, I feel Keddy is probably one of our stronger defenders, if not the strongest defender in probably the league. Perimeter defender, he leads the league in steals, like 2.2 a game. Like his active hands, you can put him on Okoro or Seneca Knight, or for example, the way the game is called on Sunday is also going to be a huge impact on this game, I feel.
Yeah, there's a lot more physicality that is allowed. I actually tweeted after the Eagles-Flyers matchup that the question will be, can Keddy be able to adjust? Because he won't get those same calls on Sunday. Historically, there's always more contact. But yeah, it's a great point. I mean, Josh Ward-Hibbert has been a great defender for the Eagles, but Keddy Johnson is not the type of player that he thrives on, that fits his skill set defensively. So I see Coach putting Michael Carew on him. I know he matched up against him, in this previous game, and Mike has done a great job of shutting down the opponent's best players at time when there's been a challenge. However, I'm not sure I've seen a game to where he's had the responsibility of locking down the other team's best player and been on his game offensively as well. So that will be another thing to keep an eye on as we move close to the final.
And speaking of the calls, I think there are definitely in each team at least a couple of players that if they get into foul trouble early, it changes everything. So we have to watch out for that as well.
Yeah.
I am just looking. I am really excited about 2 equal teams facing off, and let the best man win.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing day. 3:30 p.m. tip-off live on DAZN for the men's final. The women's final tips off from 12 o'clock on the DAZN, live from the Utilita Arena. It's on, you can watch it on DAZN. You can watch it on YouTube as well. Do catch Drew Lasker with all the build-up and Daniel Outledge on the ones and twos with the call.
Is there a dunk contest?
There is a dunk contest,
Who's
I believe.
in that?
I don't know. Do you know who's in the dunk contest, Drew?
I am not sure. Last year it was professional dunkers, so I would have to assume that it would be the same this year. It was cool. I think even the NBA should move towards it. It's just better to let those guys do what they do.
As long as it's not Marcus Delpesh, because the last 2 years for Sheffield,
oh God,
he's had some stinkers in the dunk contest. I think we'll be in a great place.
Oh man, yeah.
I think on that note though, I think we should go towards pro dunkers because with all the social media that's out, like sometimes the competitions between the players actually look rubbish compared to what you see online with those pro dunkers, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think we should.
I've seen some funny videos on YouTube where it's like the Americans are like, this is what they like review British basketball. Have you seen this on YouTube, Drew? It's like Americans rate British basketball dunk competitions. Have you seen this?
Oh yeah, I did see that. That was hilarious.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny. Go check it out if you haven't checked it out for the listener. It provides a good laugh. Drew, before we let you go, I know you and the Bristol Flyers fans have a bit of history when it comes to you and your predictions. But if I was to put you on the spot with a pre-game prediction ahead of Sunday's SLB Trophy Final, you got Bristol Flyers versus Newcastle Eagles, the first ever SLB Trophy Final. What is your prediction?
Wow, you caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that. Initial thoughts, like I've been going back and forth on this in wrestling, and I'm not sure I'm settled, but you're asking me right now. From the point that I made earlier, because Newcastle, I feel, have a little less room for error in regards of who needs to step up on the day, I'm going to go with the Eagles by 5 in a back-and-forth bloodbath.
Oh. I'm going Flyers by 3, and I think Damon Robinson and Keddy Johnson are going to get us over the line.
I think we're heading to overtime.
Ooh.
And I think Owen McCormack is going to hit a game-winning 3.
Okay.
Oh, my gosh. What a prediction.
That'd be great.
That would be wild. Dan, got any predictions?
I was honestly going to say an Owen McCormack 3. Owen's my guy. I've got to back Owen.
Omac. Make some Flyers history.
Hey, he has the ability to do so.
He does have the ability to do so, especially when you got Alain Louis out there on the court with him. You can definitely get him open for some corner triples. Drew, thanks so much for joining us on the Flyers podcast, mate. Best of luck with the DAZN broadcast this week. I know you've been researching, putting all your work in, so I hope it goes well for you. And let's hope we're treated to an amazing game on Sunday in the SLB Trophy Finals.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you guys along with the Bristol Flyers fans in the building. Let's have a great one and put on a great spectacle for British basketball.
This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
That was a really good episode, I thought.
He's very interesting. He has a lot to offer. He knows things that we don't know as well. It's really interesting to hear about some of the old times with the Flyers, his experience with Newcastle as well. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I have flashbacks from some of those seasons where they used to beat us time and time again. 2014, 2015.
My whole life flashed before my eyes.
Yeah.
It was really boring.
But yes, do check out the SLB Trophy Final this weekend. If you're not on the bus right now on the way to Birmingham listening to this podcast, you can watch it on DAZN. I'm actually going to be on the bus on Sunday because we are taking the podcast up there, aren't we? So you're going to be with Wob Mob. I am going to be on the supporters bus.
The Wob Bob.
The Wob Mob.
Wob Mob, fine.
The Wob Mob. And producer Dan is going to be taking us behind the scenes. We're all going to be basically, so a production meeting, right? Because we haven't done this yet. We are basically all going to be doing our own thing on the day.
So I don't have to speak to either of you.
No, you can literally, like, if we run into... if we run into each other, great, and we'll do a little piece together. But the way I see it is we all document our days, and then we all send me the footage, and then I will turn it into a great package that documents the whole trophy final day. I've got a list of people that everyone needs to speak to based on what you're doing. So, Sam, you'll have loads of sponsors and maybe some VIPs to speak to.
Nice.
I'll be speaking to some fans and some members of the media. And producer Dan will be taking us behind the scenes, like MTV Crib style. We want to see the whole setup, and we want to see who we can speak to. Let's have a chat with Kevin Bonner, okay?
Yes, I'll try.
Kevin Bonner is the director for Sunday's game. Tell us about Kevin Bonner.
Kevin's a great guy, fantastic director, loves being behind the camera, not in front of the camera. I approached him with the idea of maybe interviewing him. No, I don't think so.
He's got a great voice for a podcaster. I listen to it every single week in my ear holes during broadcasts.
We'll see.
well, yeah. If you get him, mate, you get 10 bonus points for Gryffindor.
Thank you. But hopefully also Dan Routledge, Azania, Stuart, people like that.
100%.
Dan's definitely a Hufflepuff, let's be honest about this.
You are a Hufflepuff.
Why?
If I ever did hear one.
I don't know. It's just what you are, okay?
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Joel's a Slytherin, let's be honest.
Big time.
Anyway,
wait till my father hears about this. Right, shall we get to the news?
Yeah.
This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
Here's a look at what's been going on around Super League basketball this past week. We got to start by talking about the recent Flyers game. Now we've got to move from trophy, switching focus now to cup. There's a lot of competitions this season, isn't there?
Well, once the trophy's done this Sunday, never have to talk about it this season ever again.
Once we've won it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last week was the SLB Cup quarter-final. Caledonia Gladiators, they came to Bristol.
What a weird game of basketball.
What a weird week it's been for Caledonia Gladiators. Can we talk about this or no? We can talk about it a little bit. It was announced that they have released 2 of their players. If you are familiar with the news, you can Google said players' names. You can see what has happened. But tough week for Caledonia. They obviously this week have announced the departure of Robbie Pears as well as head coach. Their 4th head coach now in Johnny Bunyan this season.
If it's 4 head coaches, 4 coaches in how long?
This season.
Yeah, if it's 4, then it's not a problem with the coaching, is it?
Yeah. But the Caledonia Gladiators did come to Bristol on Sunday, and it was a very interesting game. To be fair, the 7-8 guys that did come down, they played Leicester on Friday, they played us on Sunday in the trophy. With all the stuff that's been going on off the court, they came down, they put together they had a very competitive squad, and they put together a very solid performance, and they just run out of steam in the 4th quarter, right?
Well, it was very weird because Bristol Flyers and Caledonia shot unbelievably well for about the first 7 minutes of the game, wasn't it?
Goodness.
It was
was a
wild.
shootout early in the game.
Bristol Flyers got 29 points in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. And then the pace really slowed down. We saw Caledonia shift into zone defense, this hybrid sort of stretch zone defense, which when you've got a short rotation, it's good to play a zone like that because it helps your players rest a little bit more. And it just takes all the energy out of the game when a team sits in a zone like that. Throughout the rest of the game, we did see that. And luckily, the Flyers, it was pretty close the whole way through. Breakaway moment was when Evan Walsh scored 5 straight points in the 4th quarter, hit that big 3, then got the steal and finish. And that's the moment where you felt like, yeah, we're going to get over the line here, right?
I think it always felt like it was going to be okay, but it was a little bit squeaky at moments, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, there was. They took the lead in the 3rd quarter.
I know.
But obviously the game wasn't on DAZN because there was an issue with DAZN at their end, so the fans couldn't see it. So there are highlights on our YouTube channel. There are also extended highlights on our YouTube channel as well. So you should, with the extended highlights, the condensed game, you should get a feel for how the game went. It's about 10 minutes long. You can go check it out now on our YouTube, which if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, it's on the same channel. Interesting game it was for Flyers. They came out on top 71-58 in the end. Damon Robinson, 16.7 rebounds, 3 blocks. Keddy Johnson and Jared Sherfield also in double figures. And they, again, holding Caledonia to 58 points in the game, was the ultimate difference maker. Anything else to add to this game? I don't really think there is.
Well, all it means is we're through to the semi-final.
Yes, it does mean we're through to the semi-final.
We are against... Who are we? I've got it here, actually.
It's against Sheffield Sharks.
Absolutely.
And also, we have announced the dates of those 2 games against Sheffield Sharks. And at this moment in time, right now, and probably, right now they're on priority sale. By the time you listen to this podcast, they'll probably be on general sale. So do get your tickets for our SLB Cup semi-final home leg. Bristol Flyers versus Sheffield Sharks is aggregate score over 2 legs again. So exactly what we did against Cheshire. Chance for Flyers to reach their second major final of the season.
So, do you have those dates there to hand?
Yes, the home leg is Friday, February 7th for a 7:30 p.m. tip-off. The away leg is Sunday, February 9th for a 4 p.m. tip-off. Also, I do have to say, Flyers season ticket holders, this is not a season ticket holder game, so you'll get your season tickets are not valid for cup knockout games, so you have to buy for this game. However, Flyers season ticket holders can take advantage of 50% off tickets for our SLB Cup semi-final home leg, because they would have received an email by now with a unique code that gives them a discount on tickets. You can get them for half price. It's a no-brainer, surely.
So, but if you do turn up and you haven't got a ticket, it probably will have sold out, and so we'll have to banish you from SGS. Isn't that right,
Yeah,
Joel?
for life.
For life, yeah.
But you can also, by the way, with that discount code, you can also bring a mate. A mate can also use that discount code. So if you've got a friend that's not been to Flyers before, 50% off tickets for them as well. Use the code. It's in your inbox right now. If you're a Bristol Flyers member, you can get 25% discount on your game tickets. So added benefit for being a Flyers member. Right, so other things to catch up on. Damon Robinson, by the way, was named in Team of the Week.
Of course he was.
For his performance against the Caledonia Gladiators. So the Flyers big man is going into Sunday's final with a big bunch of form. Love it. Right, other things to get to. New souvenirs. Bristol Flyers have partnered with Souvenir Pros Terrace to provide a new range of officially licensed club merchandise. Have you seen this yet?
No.
Get it up on screen, producer Dan. Here's a look at some of our new items with the Terrace. Look at this, Sam. You've got Flyers mugs with the home and the away uniform.
Why has it got a picture of you on, Joel, as one of the mugs?
Brilliant. But look, I'll tell you the one thing I'm buzzing about. Pet bandanas. You can get a pet bandana with the Bristol Flyers home or away kit for your puppy.
Are you going to get one for
Yogi Dog?
For Yogi Dog.
100% I'm getting one for Yogi Dog.
When you do, get a picture and bring it in, Jolie.
I will. And if you, as a Flyers fan, are looking to get one of these pet bandanas from our online store, when it arrives, take a picture of your pup, send it in to us, tag us at Bristol Flyers, and we'll feature them on the Bristol Flyers podcast. How about that?
Can I see a freshwater deliverance mechanism?
What do you mean?
Can you see it?
A coaster?
No.
A bottle opener?
Bottle opener.
Yes. I was like, what are you trying to get at here?
Freshwater. I was trying to be posh, Joel, like I am, obviously.
Yeah, coasters, bottle openers, you name it. They're on there right now. And there's home uniform branded versions and away uniform branded versions. Which is done.
Foam hands? I can see foam hands on here.
You can get foam hands. You need a hand, mate?
Thank you. Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But they'd be great for the final.
They will be great for the final. You can get them right now over at bristolflyers.co.uk. So, do get them. Go get them right now. Speaking of merch, by the way, this has been talked about a lot, and I want to address this here on the podcast, and that is Bristol Flyers SLB Trophy Final supporters T-shirts. Because I can confirm that we've got supporters T-shirts!
Yeah!
Yes, thanks to our partners at Loyal to the Game and Thatcher's Cider, who have teamed up together, we are going to be giving out free T-shirts to every fan sat in the Bristol Flyers fan section this Sunday at the SLB Trophy Final.
What do they look like, Joel?
They look like this. Reaches under the desk. Here's one I made earlier. There they are. These are our SLB Trophy Final T-shirts, sponsored by Loyal to the Game and Thatcher's Cider. The front, it says Loyal to Bristol, 2025 SLB Trophy Final with the Loyal to the Game logo. On the back, you have the Thatcher's Cider logo with our route to the final, like we're a big old boy band. This is our 2025 SLB Trophy Tour. All the results are listed on there. The SLB Trophy Final logo is on there as well. And you can get your hands on one of these completely free at Sunday's SLB Trophy Final. Look out for people. We're going to be handing them out probably around the concourse area as you enter the fan section. A couple of things to note, though. We cannot guarantee you get the size you want because they're free t-shirts. We do have junior sizes available, so you can get junior sizes available. The junior sizes do not have the Thatcher's Cider logo on the back for obvious reasons. Come find us. First come, first served, I have to say as well. So we cannot guarantee that everyone will have a Trophy Final t-shirt, but we're going to guarantee that a lot of you will have a Trophy Final t-shirt. I'm going to create a sea of blue in the Bristol Flyers fan section on Sunday. So massive thank you to our partners at Loyal to the Game. Anna Jagger, you're an absolute legend. Thank you to Thatcher's for also helping us and supporting us with the t-shirts. Sam, you gonna get your hands on one?
Oh, of course. I've literally just texted Steve there to be like, can I have one?
Well, you can't. This is mine.
No. Yeah, but I'm excited. I love it when we're wearing t-shirts. And now we've got a pink one, we've got a orange one, and a blue one. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, we've done a red one from the last time we were at the Cup final as well. Like, we've done it over the years. We've done it. People ask, like, oh, why is it not pink? We're playing in pink on Sunday. We are playing in pink on Sunday. I can confirm, by the way. Why is it not pink? We've done a pink t-shirt before.
Yeah, we've done a pink. Guys, we've done a pink t-shirt before. Come on.
We've done a red t-shirt before. We've done an orange t-shirt before. Let's mix it up. It's got to be a bright colour that really pops in the crowd as you see it. Navy probably wouldn't work in that sort of environment because it's got a pop. This sort of blends in the navy blue, but bright blue. Let's see them. Big sea of blue will be coming your way on Sunday as we watch the boys get over the line in the trophy final. And that's it for this week's news.
You're listening to the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
What a podcast. This is our last podcast in the studio for a while because we've got some big plans coming up for the pod over the next 2 weeks, right, Sam?
Well, what's happening, Jolly?
So, let's talk you through the plans for the podcast over the next 2 weeks. We're going to go on the road on Sunday to do our trophy final episode. We might record a link in here straight after this to start the podcast off, but the whole podcast will be up in Birmingham. So look out for that. That will probably drop next week. And then the day after the trophy final, you and I are flying out to Estonia for our EMBL game.
Estonia.
Yeah. So we are taking the podcast out there as well. We are going to bring fans along. We're going to show them what it's like to go to a ENBL away game. I've never been to one myself in the 2 years of Flyers being in the ENBL, so that should be exciting. And producer Dan over there might give us some tasks to do.
There's no might about it. There will be tasks to do in Estonia, gentlemen.
Well, what happens in Estonia will be recorded and put on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they say.
but maybe with some less fresh waters this time. Before we do go here on this week's episode of the podcast, reminder, if you like the podcast, please like, comment and subscribe. Give us a rating and review. If you're watching on YouTube, all those podcasty things that podcast hosts tell you to do, please do them. Our numbers are shooting up. Our podcast community is growing, and we'd like you to share the podcast with a friend to help us grow even more. But on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this week's episode. The next time we're on the podcast, we'll be at the trophy final. Super exciting. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I really hope everyone has a fun day. It is a great day, and win or lose, it will be a day that lives long in the memory of Flyers fans. But of course, we're going to win.
I disagree. I hope. I don't care if you have a good day or a bad day. I just want us to win.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And we will. We will win this game. Producer Dan, thanks for pushing the buttons as always. Sam, thanks for joining me. Thanks to Drew Lasker for dialing in and helping us preview Sunday's game. But until then, from Joel, Sam, and producer Dan, you've been listening to the Bristol Flyers Podcast, powered by Matchday Live.